Everybody. Well, it is nice and early in the morning today, so I thought I would take advantage of the nice morning light that comes in and do my video on ninth grade ELA. So I was kind of nervous about making this video. Okay, I'll just be really honest with you because we've jumped around a lot, and I know that would appear that we're just all over the place and she's not really learning anything. That is not true, I will tell you. However, I think after thinking through the past 12 weeks, the one thing that I would now recommend to myself was that I created a priority list of goals before we started the school year when it came to English studies for her. There were several things I wanted to work on this year. One was spelling, one was grammar, and one was writing. The last thing would be that she would increase her reading endurance and that she would enjoy reading. So, those would be the four focus points that I really wanted for her this year, that I saw a need for. Just looking over the past previous work that we've done in the past year before she started ninth grade. And looking back, I should have prioritized what do we need to start working on first and then move through them. Instead, I kind of went gangbusters at first, and I wanted to get the best of the best in every category of language arts. It was very teacher intensive, and within the first 6 weeks of school, I was so worn out that I knew I had to make a change. So I talked about that in our first break video update. And I told you guys that I was burned out and that I was going to need to make a change. And so instead, I went the totally opposite direction, and I went for language lessons for a Living Education 8, which is not a bad curriculum, but we didn't address any weaknesses before we threw ourselves into an all-in-one. And that doesn't make a lot of sense now that I look back on it. Did we still learn through going through it? Yes. But it really just magnified the issues that hadn't yet been tackled. And so this is our second break, which means we've schooled for 12 weeks. And I finally said, you have got to prioritize. Sometimes, no matter how long you've been homeschooling, you're always learning, you're always growing. And the hard thing about it is that each year, your student will have different needs. And so you just are always it's kind of like going to war or something. Like, you have to have a strategy and you've got to have priorities, and you just have to tackle it that way instead of going one extreme and then the other extreme. I think it's hard to think through that logically sometimes because the emotional component plays in. And that's why I was kind of nervous to make this video. I just didn't want to be judged, honestly, in the comments for, doing one thing and then the next 6 weeks doing another thing. And then, oh, we're going to a new 6 weeks and now we're going to do something else. I know how that appears, but I have thought through it, and we have learned along the way, but we've just not mastered one thing because we've just been kind of grasping at all the straws at once. So we're not doing that anymore. I prioritized what was the most important thing to me to start with, and that was writing. So we paused the language lessons, we paused whatever we were doing, and I will show you the folder. We have been doing this now for 2 weeks. This is IEW Structure and Style Level B. And I chose level B because when I looked at level C and the pace, it was just a lot faster. And I had a good friend of mine who's gone through those levels say where she's at, I would do level B. And so that's what we started with. Y'all, she loves it. And she turned in her first writing assignment last week before we went to break. The first week was kind of like just an introduction into how to do a keyword outline off of a source text. But the second week, you kind of take it one step further and you learn about adding an ly adverb, and it's called dress ups. There's all different ones, and you learn each one like it's spread out so you're not so overwhelmed. And so this time for the second week, you get a checklist and you format your paper a certain way and you use your keyword outline. And instead of just verbally telling the story of the source text through your keyword outline, you're actually writing it down. And he is so clear. And the videos, yes, they're a little long, but they divide them into 2 days. And she hasn't not made it through one yet. I mean, he's funny, and he's witty, and it makes us all laugh. I watch them with her, and we've just so far really enjoyed it. She turned in that assignment. She got 100. The checklist helped her stay organized. With ADHD, she's always just, it's all trying to hit her at once, and it's hard for her to create a plan of action where things are in order. But with the checklist and with a certain method, that helps kind of rein that all in. And she told me the other day, she's like, is this whole course based off keyword outlines? Because I love those. So I'm just thrilled that she has enjoyed it thus far. I know we're only 2 weeks in, but we are going to be working on this through the rest of the year. Let me see. There are, and I can tell you how many weeks is what I'm looking at here. There are 24 weeks, and we're starting 12 weeks in. So we should be able to do this whole program by the end of the year. And that is my number one main goal. I did keep the Phonetic Zoo spelling going, which is also by IEW, because she's only 10 lessons away from finishing level A. The reason she's gone through it so fast is, and we started this 12 weeks ago, the reason she's moved through it so fast is because the words are quite easy. Now, there's a few that have hung up a little bit with her, but for the most part, we go through the rule, we go through the spelling list, and then she has the oral quiz where I call the words out, she writes them. And if you get 100, you just move to the next lesson. And so that's why we have moved quickly. Level B is a complete step up. It's not even a small step. It's like a big step up. And so we will need more time to go through those, but I wanted to do A first just to get used to the rules and the little rhymes that come with it. And we're not like memorizing them or anything, but just exposure. And then we'll go into level B. This really complements the writing program. It doesn't add a huge amount of time. This might take 10 to 15 minutes every day. We've never spent 15 minutes, probably 10. And when the words get a little harder, we might spend a little more time, but I don't see doing spelling more than 15 minutes a day with this program. So we have just kept that going right along with it. I wanted to share some of the books that she's been reading. We have used the Not Consume High School Reading Journal. And so far, I have let her pick the books because I wanted to start the year with her getting to pick what she wanted for it to build, yes, her reading endurance like I mentioned in some of my goals, but to do it with books that she wanted to read. And so we started with this one. It's called Water's Break. And this is kind of a science fiction. It is from a Christian author, so very clean book. And she really liked the story of the main character that went through this journey in this book. And so she loved it. She loves fantasy, and this kind of went right along with that. We met that author at Teach Them Diligently Homeschool Conference this year. And she signed it for her, and that was the first book she wanted to choose. The second book she chose was Secrets in the Mist. This is a steampunk fiction novel, and it is a series. It's a 2-part series. We met this author at Teach Them Diligently Homeschool Conference 2 years ago. And we were going through, and she was telling us all about her new series that had come out. She signed it for us, and we bought both, part 1 and part 2. So along with the journal, we chose, the first journal was Fiction Journal A. This was Fiction Journal B. And there's only A and B, so they flip back and forth. in the reading journal. And so she did the reading journal B for this one. And y'all, I read this alongside her this time because I wanted to be able to talk about some of the reading journal components with her. So she's just not used to going as deep as the journal was taking her. And so she was struggling a little bit through level A. So during it's not really level A, it's just section A. And so section B was a little more straightforward for her. She didn't really need my guidance too much, but she needs to go back to A because that was the one that had concepts that were fairly new to her. But she finished the journal B with this one, and y'all, it's so good. And I loved it so much that I told her over break, I'm reading part 2 and then I'll give it to her so she can finish the series. But I'm not very far in yet. You can see just this little bit here, but this picks up the story where it left off. They leave you completely hanging at the end of book 1. And I was so into it. I was like, I'm reading this over break. So today's only Tuesday, so I have plenty of time to sit and read and veg out a little bit. But y'all, this is a really good series. It's clean. It's from a Christian author again, and it's really a fun adventure. Coming up, I'm going to have her tackle a classic with Anne of Green Gables. And I already had this on my bookshelf. It looks thick, but it's like this cute little 5x7 size. And the text is not too small, which I like. I don't like itty bitty text, and she doesn't either. It's hard for us to read. So I bought these because they were just pretty. And I told her, I said, okay, it's time to dive in and get off of fiction for a little bit. Well, it's still fiction, but to dive in and do a classic is what I meant. And so we are going to do Anne of Green Gables because Anne, when I was growing up, I read all of the Anne of Green Gables, and there was a TV series out at the time. It may have been a movie. I can't remember if it was a movie series or TV series. This would have been back in the 80s and 90s. It may have been on PBS. I don't know. But I remember watching those with my grandmother, and I fell in love with Anne because she was a lot like me. She was feisty and just full of like life and adventure, and she just said whatever was on her mind, and she just made me laugh. And so with Josie, I wanted her to read that because she has a similar personality as her mama. And I really thought this would be a great first high school classic to dive into. So we're going to do this one after we finish the Secrets in the Mist. Actually, it's called Sky World series. But I wanted to show you what we had been reading in case you wanted some book recommendations. And if your kids are into the fantasy realm, it can be hard to find clean fantasy that's appropriate for that age. I highly recommend, let me see this, it's Realm Makers, I think is the publisher. Yes, Realm Makers, and I will link their website down below. But they publish a lot of fantasy novels with Christian authors, and they're always at Teach Them Diligently. And it's so fun to meet the different authors and let them tell you about their book. And they ask you, what kind of genre you're interested in, and they kind of point you in the right direction. And we've had a lot of luck with Realm Makers, so I would recommend them. After we've bought from them for the past 2 years, I haven't been disappointed in any of the books that we've bought. So that's what we're working on right now. We're just going to get our writing down, solidify it, go through this IEW program. We're going to continue reading on the side to build up our reading endurance, and that benefits her not just for English, but across her studies, because science is picking up, history is picking up, all these things are moving to the high school level where there's a lot more reading. And so I just wanted to build her endurance up this year off of something that she would be interested in, that would be fun to her and not just misery. And I think this is a great way so far to do that. She has enjoyed picking up a book and spending 30 minutes a day. That's not always been easy for her. We've built up to the 30 minutes. I know a lot of high schoolers are reading an hour, but 30 minutes for her is a lot. And she's doing a really good job. So we're just going to continue with the spelling, keep reading on the side 30 minutes a day, and working on our writing program. And for right now, that I think will serve us very well. It's not too much, but we're still making progress and we're still working hard and putting in good effort. It's just we're not going to be grasping at all the straws at one time. So that is how I'm approaching ELA. It has been a roller coaster so far this year, and I want to get off the ride. You know what I mean? I'm ready to just settle into a routine. And the last 2 weeks of school for us before this break this week was just great, y'all. It was like everything just settled in. And so I feel really good about this because we've been doing it for 2 weeks now before we took our break. And even she told me, I'm really enjoying this. And before then, she would have never said that, and I wouldn't have either. But I don't feel burned out doing it this way. She doesn't feel burned out, and we're both finding it's very doable. But I also see in her, she's building her self-confidence, and she's wanting to do it, and that makes all the difference, doesn't it? Your teens can put their heels in the sand and not want to do something and make their life and your life absolutely miserable. But when they find motivation and they gain self-confidence and they're wanting to work towards a goal, they can accomplish anything when they put their mind to it. So I've been really proud of her. I'm glad we finally, I think, come full circle with settling into a routine and what we're going to focus on. So please don't be rude in the comments below. I'm just a human being like you. We make mistakes, but we are in a good place now, and I think this is going to be a great thing to settle into for the rest of the year. So that is my 12-week update on 9th grade English Language Arts. And I am hoping to get a few more videos out this week for you guys with just different 12-week updates on different things that we're doing. So check out my video list below and see what we've been up to. All right, guys, I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll see you in the next one.